Hi everybody, Aaron here. Welcome to another video in my open-ended series on video games. Once again, these are not intended to be comprehensive reviews, but rather just a chance to highlight one specific aspect of a game that I really like and that I think merits analysis. So today we're going to talk about Star Fox 64. More specifically, we're going to talk about the level Macbeth and its particular structure. In this mission, you're tasked with leading an assault on an enemy base, although we won't actually see much of that base. Instead, the entire level is centered around this supply train you see here.
I spot the train. I'm taking it out.
You begin the level as you intercept the train at its rear, and then spend most of the level driving alongside it in pursuit. You slowly gain ground and move up the train, passing various cars along the way. Finally, you make it all the way to the front, at which point the locomotive and this kite-like robot it deploys serve as the final boss. The train cars are quite involved as well. They don't just serve as scenery. Cannon cars fire explosives, and these gondola cars dump boulders in your path. In fact, it's impressive just how centrally focused the level is on the train and nothing else. There are still a few aircraft and turrets scattered around, but they pose only a minor threat. Overwhelmingly, the train itself will serve as your main enemy throughout the entire level. This in turn gives rise to a lot of interesting possible interactions. For instance, these cannon cars can be quite dangerous. Things get hectic if they're left unchecked, especially once you enter this narrow corridor here. But they're also entirely destructible. If you manage to destroy this first one quickly, then the part of the level that follows becomes significantly easier.
How's the landmaster, Fox?
Of course, this is easier said than done. This first cannon car starts out behind you, and then flies past quite quickly as the train accelerates. By the time it actually starts shooting at you, it's quite far ahead and difficult to hit. You do have other options though as well. For instance, watch what happens when, instead of targeting the cannon car itself, we destroy one of the gondola cars ahead of it. The cannon car is now detached from the rest of the train, and therefore it gets left behind. It's a nice result that expands the player's engagement with the game's systems beyond a simple reflex-based process of shooting everything that shoots at you. Instead, it rewards the player for lateral thinking and for taking into consideration how trains actually work in real life. Moving on to the next portion of the level, we'll encounter a similar situation. Once we enter this ravine here, we'll see two more cannon cars. This time, they'll not only fire explosives at us, but also shoot the walls to drop boulders in our path. Once again though, we can destroy them, but we don't really have a great shot, especially at the second one. Notice this big silver car in between them though? This is a tanker car, and if we destroy it, it will explode, taking both cannon cars with it. Done soon enough, this makes this part of the level a lot easier. Of course, explosive barrels, boxes, etc. that can be shot to take out enemies are a pretty standard mechanic in many games. So in itself, this isn't nearly as clever an addition as the previous detachment mechanic I highlighted. But here's where it does get really cool. With a precisely placed bomb, we can actually destroy this tanker car way back at the very start of the level. This not only destroys cannons 2 and 3 preemptively, but also brings into play the previous detachment mechanic, leaving behind every car after the tanker, including Cannon 1 and all these gondola cars. Thus, with one shot, we can actually remove the main threat from 2/3 of the level, thus rendering it almost trivial. Of course, you'd never even think to do any of this until you've played through the level a few times, and learned how these train cars all interact with one another. But that's part of what I really like about this level design. It adds an element of long-term interaction to the level. What you do initially has a substantial impact on how hard the next segment of the level will be. Thus, it rewards the player for thinking ahead and taking preemptive action, and punishes them for being short-sighted. The rest of Star Fox 64's corridor levels basically lack this. You'll have minor long-term choices to make in terms of, for instance, when to use your limited supply of bombs, but that's about it. Nothing you do or don't do in one encounter will really change the way things play out more than 5 to 10 seconds down the road. Of course, this is essentially fine. It's not a flaw to lack this sort of long-term interaction. It's just a really great added dimension here on Macbeth. The final section of the level also employs a very neat mechanic. As you enter the final stretch here, your squad mate will tell you to hit the 8 switches. These are them here. The first few are fairly easy, but they get trickier to spot and to hit as you go on. Furthermore, you won't encounter the last few until you've actually started fighting the level's boss already. If you miss one, it's fine. You just carry on and fight the boss like normal. But if you hit all 8, this control box here will open up. And if you hit that...
Good going, Buck. No! Get the blade! I can't stop it!
As we see, the boss is automatically destroyed along with the enemy supply base. As a result, you get a mission accomplished instead of a mere mission complete. Many other Star Fox 64 levels employ a similar mechanic to determine which mission you'll proceed to next, but this mostly takes the form of either a time limit for fighting the boss, or a secret warp midway through the level that takes you down an alternate path and skips the boss encounter entirely. What I like about Macbeth's alternate ending is that it presents an entirely different way of defeating the boss instead, rather than simply avoiding that encounter completely. Furthermore, that alternative is built right into the final boss encounter itself, which in turn is built right into the level's larger focus itself on the supply train. Thus, it all ties together into a single central mechanic that drives the entire level. Also, beyond the more tangible mechanical interactions that arise from this strong central focus, it simply feels like it ties the level together. It gives the player a clear goal and gives them a strong sense of progress toward that goal. You can actually see yourself moving up the train and getting closer to the front, and as you reach the locomotive, you know that you've reached the end. It's a really nice touch. Anyway, that's all for me today. As usual, if you enjoyed today's video, please remember to like and/or subscribe. And keep an eye out for my next video, which will be coming soon.